Welcome to the Healing Sucks podcast, y'all. I'm your host, Jackey Hall, survivor, educator, and future certified therapist specializing in trauma and abuse. I'm not a doctor or board certified, but many of my guests are, and they bring their expert advice to help us navigate the healing journey. This podcast is all about giving survivors a voice, sharing powerful stories, and bringing in mental health professionals to shed light on the issues that affect us all. If you're looking to learn, grow, and heal, this is the place for you. Let's dive in. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Healing Sucks podcast. This week on the podcast, I have someone I can call a dear friend of mine now. We talk all the time. I actually met her through Jan Broberg, I believe. But now she's just become a near dear friend, and it always feels like everyone I run across now has a story. And so I'm so glad that she came on today, and she's ready to share. Her name is Carrie Eberts Grant, and she is an abuse survivor. I will give you a trigger warning. Her story is wild, is absolutely wild. So I'm just going to let you go from here, Carrie, but I just want to introduce you to everyone and just say thank you so much for coming on today. And how are you doing?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Jackey. Thank you for having me on the show. And I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. So I guess I'll just jump right into my wild story, So I was born into a family that was on drugs and on welfare and whatnot. And my birth mom had gotten pregnant with me by someone she was dating, and he ran off when she was 3 months pregnant. So that was born and living with her. And then we had these neighbors next door named Ron and Deborah, and they said that I wasn't really being taken care of that well. And so they asked if they could adopt me, and my birth mom kept going, yes, no. And finally she signed a paper saying you can take care of her for 30 days. And they took me out of the state. They stole me, basically. They stole me, and she tried to catch them in Arizona. So they just kept going with me, and we ended up all the way in Chicago, Illinois. And my dad was working for Border Patrol previous to that. This was in California that I was born and that I was living. And then I was around 2 years old when this happened, approximately 1.5, maybe more like 1.5. It's fuzzy. It's fuzzy on my biological mom's part because of the drugs and drinking. And I never really got a clear answer from my adoptive parents, who are both passed away now. So that's an approximate. But anyhow, so he worked for Border Patrol. And so when they stole me and then we were out in Chicago, somehow he got it to where she was going to have to come out there to fight for me, to have me, which is ridiculous, right? She doesn't have any money, so she can't afford a lawyer.
Yeah, it doesn't even sound like legal, like it's legally accurate either, right? It's like they should have never been able to take you out of the state to begin with.
Totally not. I think, because it was the early 70s. I was born in 1973. Well, it was mid-70s by then. And they definitely went for clout, right? So, my dad's this Border Patrol. My mom's on drugs and welfare, so it's okay, the person that's got it together. They didn't try so hard like they do these days. They try to keep you with your original, they try to, they try to see if there's any way you can stay with your biological parent, if that's possible. So it definitely wasn't legal. I really don't know how they did it. They just finagled it somehow in that way. So she could not go to Chicago. So she finally just had to let them adopt me. And so that was finalized when I was around 3 years old. And so they changed my name. My name that my biological mom named me was Mary Elizabeth Turner. So they adopted, once I was legally officially adopted, they changed my name to Carrie Lynn Souser. So it's this whole, total mind fuck,
Yeah.
Excuse my language.
No, you're fine.
So
I mean, that messes with like your total identity.
so much. So we didn't stay in Chicago very long. I think maybe, I don't know exactly how long, but we moved back to Southern California in time for me to start kindergarten. So I don't even know how late, around 5 years old, I guess. And I better just backtrack on from the ages 3 to 5, from basically when my memory starts of anything. My mom started to abuse me, and just started with the crazy things like stabbing my finger with a needle to show me not to play with needles, lighting a match, blowing it out, and immediately putting it on my finger to teach me not to play with matches. Like, she really, I think, started to hate me around that time, which is also after my repressed memory started. I now know that he was already molesting me as well at that time. So in Chicago, that's what was going on. And I just want to say, I do believe my mom knew, whether unconsciously or not, but she was also a survivor, and her father molested her up until she was 19. Yeah. And he committed suicide around that time. So
Was this your adopted parent? Was this your adopted parents that were abusing you?
yes, I know it's really hard to keep track. Yeah, I probably won't bring up my biological mom again much, but yes, my adoptive parents. Yep, yep, and that,
Absolutely sickening.
yes, yeah, I do. I think my mom had good intentions with, my dad did not. The adoptive dad. I just call them mom and dad for the
Yeah.
purposes of this story. I'll say adoptive. I probably won't say that anymore because they did raise me, so I just call them mom and dad. But I think he had very ill intentions. He had very ill intention. I don't think she did. I think she likes babies. She likes kittens. She liked kittens, stuff like that. But it ended up triggering her. I know she knew on some level. And in fact, he married her when she was 19. He was 31 or 32.
Gosh.
He already knew. He already dated her. He just jumped on it pretty much right away. So I really do believe, over the course of my life, that he was a true pedophile, truly a
Mhm.
pedophile, not someone that just an opportunist. I really think that he had a real issue. But sorry if I got a little off track there.
You're fine.
So we moved to back to California by the time I was around 5. Technically, I did have a brother as well. Or do they had adopted him about 2 years before me. They adopted him at birth, right from the hospital. And I won't go into this part too much either, but he was the favorite, my
Mm.
whole life. I was scapegoat. He was the favorite. I think they felt more like he was really their child, for one thing. So
Yeah. I mean, I do have to say, like, I was the baby of the family, and like I had like step siblings, and I was treated very badly by the step siblings because I was quote unquote favorited, but I was still highly abused.
yeah, yeah, that definitely happens. That definitely happens. I'm sorry that happened. How many were there? I know this is your episode, but how many were there? How many?
3. I had 3 step siblings from the time I was 5 till the time I was 13.
Wow, and they probably all just kind of ganged up.
They still
They
do.
ganged up on you.
Like the minute that we left that we left the state, and my mom like was done with my stepdad, I never cared to keep in contact with them, check up on them. Like I literally don't even think I have seen a picture of them since I was probably 12 or 13. And
Wow.
it's so crazy how one of them used to be stepsister. She was secretly following me on social media. And when I started coming out talking about my abuse, she was laughing at me.
Wow.
Yeah. And she's a lot older than
Unbelievable.
me, too. It's like you can't even get mad because she was highly abused as well. She just hasn't done the work and gotten any healing done. So it's like, whatever.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's unfortunate. The whole idea even of family, I think, contributes to, um, how upsetting it is when it doesn't turn out how it's supposed to be, like the Beaver Cleaver show or whatever, the Leave
Yeah.
It to Beaver show or whatever, and families really just, there aren't very many like that, it's
Mhm.
really, that's a really rare, I think. It's pretty sad to have learned that, not all families, but a lot of families are so dysfunctional, and it's like, I think that contributes to what they're supposed to be. Well, it's just, everybody I know didn't have what it was supposed to be either. That's
Yeah,
who I made
I
friends
don't
with,
know anyone either.
Yeah, I've met hundreds of people, and literally probably thousands actually over the years. I've been going to AA meetings off and on for
Mhm.
over 30 years, actually. A little over 30 years. So I've met a lot of people, and none of them have the Beaver Cleaver story, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All the stories I've heard and stuff. So once we got to California, then it just got worse and worse. The abuse got worse and worse. Now my dad has gotten a job with the FBI in Los Angeles, so he ends up being gone from 6 a.m. to like 6 p.m. And I haven't started school yet. And my mom cannot stand me. She hates me, And so she wouldn't let me come out of my room. If I tried to come out of my room, she would beat me. She was like psychotically violent, just a blackout. So she'd grab me by my hair and throw me against the wall, or just hit me with whatever was around, and just the whole, just hate. And so, and I honestly have no memory. I have no memory of where I went to the bathroom. I have no memory of all I know is that I wasn't supposed to come out of my room even to that. And I only have one memory of me like standing partway in the hall, like holding, like just wanting to go into the restroom. And I don't have any memory after that. And I have zero memory. So I don't know about that, but,
Well, something happened.
it's a pretty bad deal. Huh?
Something happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Something really bad. Actually, I do have a physical injury in an area that a private area
Yeah.
that I have no idea what happened. It could have something to do with that. But anyways, my brother, uh, we would play games sometimes. Uh, it's weird. It's like, I think he was gone sometimes. Her mom and my mom's mom and brother lived like a block away from this new house that we moved into when we moved back to California when I was 5. So I think that maybe sometimes he was over there, maybe hanging out with them. I really don't know. Sometimes he wasn't there and I was school. I never even thought about it. He's 2 years older than me. He was at school. I was in my own world because I couldn't come out of my room. He didn't really
Yeah.
talk. I didn't talk. I was a very, believe it or not, I didn't even talk really till after high school. I was a writer. I was totally like nonverbal, really. So we did play sometimes when he was home, but so that's what it was. I was home alone with my mom, and she had to put me away, couldn't see me. And that's why I ended up being locked in my room. And so with that came no food. No, nothing to drink. That was just a common theme in general. She never gave us food. If we had it, it's just, I never even realized that's why. So it was just a few months of that as far as until school started for me. So my brother was gone. I'm just there with my mom in the daytime. That stuff didn't really happen at night once they were home. It was a lot of me and her alone. One time she was trying to curl my hair and she burned my ear on purpose because I couldn't sit still, and she burned it. She just held it to my ear. I probably do have a scar there, but I can't see the back of my ear. She held it there, and then she just decided to chop my hair off. I
Oh
had
my
long,
gosh.
like red hair. And she decided to just chop it off so she didn't have to try to do my hair anymore. And that was by first grade, which is where first grade, by first grade. So
I'm
it
so
was just a lot
sorry.
of that.
She sounds like she was, like, demonically possessed or something.
It is totally possible. I haven't mentioned that yet, but there actually there was a fanatical Christian thing going on in the house as well. So the only
Mhm.
pictures up were like Jesus and stuff, and then the 700 clubs on the TV, and then and all that. And we go to church all the time, at least twice a week. And then my dad became an usher at the church, and but anyhow, I didn't have anything to do in that room either. I barely had anything. We moved to California in a camper, so it's us four in a truck with a camper thing on the back of it. So that's not very big, right? What can you fit on the back
No.
of the truck bed? So we had like nothing. So I was in there with nothing, and I couldn't come out. Oh my God. I didn't even have furniture. I really put myself back there actually, but it was really, really something else.
What did you do about going to the bathroom? Did you just go to the bathroom on yourself or what?
That's what I don't remember. I don't remember. I know I just only have one memory of one time trying to come down the hall, holding myself like, because I tried to hold it in because I'm not supposed to go. And I just don't have any memories. I just don't know what I did or what
Yeah.
happened.
It's because something bad happened and your brain blocked it out to protect you.
Yeah, just all of my restroom experiences for that age anyway, or something. But there was one day right when we moved there that a couple of girl neighbors came over. They lived across the street. They were older. I have no idea in my mind. I was little. I'm gonna say really they might have been 10 years old maybe. I really 12. Old ladies. They came over and they came in my room because we had a swimming pool that we hadn't used yet, and we have the swimming pool. So they come in my room to try to help me change in a bathing suit or whatever. And I was screaming and crying because now I'm naked and
Yeah.
I'm screaming and crying anytime. And people are, they were just trying to help me change, but I didn't know what was going on. And I'm just screaming. And I just remember that was just a continued thing of I didn't ever want to take my clothes off. I didn't want to
Yeah.
take a
Well,
bath. I
I
didn't want to
wonder
take a
why.
shower. Yeah, right. Yeah. And I don't know
Same
what they're
thing
going to
happened to
do.
me.
I know what's happened already. I don't know what they're going to do. Oh my God, what are they going to do? So that reminds me, that's probably where I went to the restroom a lot, to be honest, because I wasn't allowed to go out to the pool. And I remember like being out there by myself a fair amount of the time for some of those years. So that's probably where I went. I could come out of my room and then while I'm out there, because nobody was watching me, my mom, whatever, she just anything but just look at me and see me and deal with me. So, that's probably where I went to the restroom once I could come out of my room and stuff. And anyways, this is a really long version. I thought I was going to have a really short version, but I'm trying to fast forward a little bit. That's really about as far as my mom goes. So when I started school, it wasn't too far of a walk. My mom started to drive me to school the first day. And I was rocking, that's something I did. I rocked, I twirled my hair, I bit my cheek, I shook my leg. I was very scared and I was rocking in the seat, like really back and forth, and the seat was squeaking. And she just screamed at me, and I got in big trouble, and she couldn't handle it. And so she didn't pick me up from school that day, my first day. So I walked around the neighborhood lost because I don't know where we live. And I remember just looking at the houses, and I'm sure I didn't really want to go there, but I have to go there wherever it's at. God, she never did drive me again unless it was raining. I walked to school all my years, but anyway, so what I started to do when I would walk to and from school is I started to pick certain flowers and certain things off of trees and eat them on my way to and from school. Some of the I remember the houses, even the one that had the roses right just across the street from the school, and then this one tree, and it just tastes like pine, but it was soft. Anyway, I was hungry, and I remembered I had a
Yeah.
route. I mean, it wasn't a really long walk anyway. I'd say it's 10-minute walk maybe or something. But yeah, that's what I would do.
Did you eat it at school?
I really didn't. No, I was in the gifted and talented education program. And it was like a whole little separate building from everybody else. And I see now that that's really a good idea because people pick on us. Now we didn't pick on each other, thank the
Yeah.
Lord. It's the smart nerd classes, So if I tried to go over to the lunch area where everybody else was, then are you a boy or a girl? And then four eyes, because I wore bifocals and all that. I didn't really want to deal with those people, the regular people. I really they really segregated us. We even had like kind of our own playground. Now people could come over there and play. It's just the way the shape of the property was.
Yeah.
It's just at the edge, at the corner. And so, right there, it was really perfect. I'm really glad now that I look back on that. But, so I didn't because I didn't want to go in the lunchroom only when it rained because everybody went into the lunchroom and that was
Uh-huh.
different. But it was like people pick on you when they're standing outside of the lunchroom,
Yeah.
like in between that and then the lunchroom. So I only ever went there when it rained pretty much. And then my mom would, she would make a sandwich with hate because she had to send us with something, she would make it with hate. I didn't want a sandwich. She had to, I think, had to send us with something, had to send me with something or legally, maybe. I'm not really sure, but
I'm sure.
I didn't want to eat. It's the only thing that any kind of food that and in a sandwich, bologna, every time. So I really didn't eat that. I didn't want it. So there was a store right behind the school, a liquor store, a convenience store called 710, one number down from 7-Eleven. And I started to steal candy from there. And I started to steal from there every single day, candy every day because that's food, when
Yeah.
you're a kid. So I went there before school started. Every now and then, yeah, I was such a good thief. It's ridiculous. I was a I was a total klepto. Really, it really started really bad there.
In the Sexual Assault Survivor Stories podcast, brave victims and survivors take to the mic to share their raw and honest journey and help normalize the conversation. This podcast is a safe space for empathy, healing, and solidarity. Hear the truth, feel the strength, and join the conversation. I'm your host, Dave Markell. Listen in to a new episode each week wherever you get your podcasts. Sexual Assault Survivor Stories, the SAS podcast, because every voice deserves to be heard.
When you are having to survive as a young child, you become really good at stealing.
Oh, so good.
I did too. The same thing happened to me. Like, I literally, by the time I was in high school, I was like stealing all of my clothes. Like, people would actually like pay me because I was so good at stealing to like get them a shirt or something they wanted, like out of a certain store,
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
my
it really
mom
is a
never paid
skill.
attention to me. She didn't ask like where all these clothes coming from because I think she only like bought us clothes like once a year. I mean, we were just poor. So,
Yeah.
I wanted to fit in, and all my other friends had, a different set of clothing they could wear for like 2 weeks in a row. I couldn't, so I get it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And then she never even noticed that or cared to ask where you got them from.
I don't think she gave 2 Fs.
Wow.
High school was it was one of like the worst times of my life. Yeah, I just like try to black that whole season of my life out. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry.
But back to your stealing, Carrie. So you were really good at
Yeah.
stealing.
Good. I mean, yeah, it was candy, but I had just had a method. I wouldn't just go in there and walk out with nothing. Of course, not ever.
Yeah.
So you just do that and then buy some stuff, and I'm a kid, so they're not paying attention, worried about a kid. I guess every day, I didn't steal a bunch of things, but several, and all the time. And then, yeah, I would give some away to the kids, right? I shared. I had plenty. And then that carried on to once I started to hang out. Sometimes I would go hang out at my grandma's house give my mom a break or whatever. My grandma didn't care. She just sat and watched soap operas, and I got to run around. She was just chill. And I ran around the neighborhood pretty much while she watched TV. She didn't care. Nobody cared. This is the early 80s. Nobody cared. Kids can run around, do whatever they want, without, like, unlike these days. So I was running around. I was stealing mail out of mailboxes. And then I was going to the Thrifties. The Thrifties was right there. It was the perfect location because there's a library where, like, I read every book there. And then there's the Thrifties. I had everything I needed, a place to steal from and a place with books. So, but I would go into Thrifties, and I had that method. I had a method. I'd buy a little thing, a pack of gum. I get a little bag with it. And they just don't pay attention to kids. So then I go back in with the little bag. I'd fill it up with stuff. I took necklaces. They were cheap, and I took candy, lots of candy. And
I had the exact same method. And like nobody taught me. When you, like I said, like when you are just surviving, you just figure things out at a really young age. So like I would go into the mall. I would go into the cheapest store possible, buy like a $5 shirt, take that bag and just go into all the other expensive stores and fill my bag up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, the mall, because you're carrying bags around anyway. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Like, good idea.
Yeah, I was some small scale stuff. I did eventually. Oh my God. I would steal. I stole also for my dad. It's really only fair. He was stealing for me at night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When he was sneaking into my room,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really only fair. But I would steal money. He had just wads, and you just shove it all in his pocket. So they're all out watching TV. They never invited me out to watch TV. So all three of them are watching TV, laughing, watching TV at night. And so I'd always go in there every day. I did that too. I'd go in his room and I'd take some of the money out. Their room conveniently was just right next to mine. It was a really tiny house anyway, but literally like one big step. There's the room. There's the door. And so, and then I was running around my neighborhood stealing mail. Then I would order those 10 cassettes for a penny. I'd send them to people's houses around me, but I wouldn't use their names. So I thought, okay, that's nice. I won't use their name. That way they won't owe anybody. Nobody will owe them because that's not their name, right? So nobody's going to get in trouble. And then I'd go collect it when it was delivered. Because I knew who was home and who wasn't,
Yeah.
Really terrible of me. But I did. So I never got caught until 6th grade at Thrifties. And my dad was waiting in the van at the time.
Oh, gosh.
Which is probably part of the thing that threw me off. It was a thing that I wouldn't steal, but he gave me money to buy some film. And I put the money in my pocket and I tried to steal the film. And I took it out of the box and left the box on the shelf. Never leave the packaging.
Yeah.
So then, there guys start walking out the store and they come after me. And now my dad's involved. And they take me to the back of the store. And fortunately, they didn't call the police. I was in 6th grade. And they put your picture up on the wall there of thieves with Polaroids. And I remember seeing this old lady on there. And I'm like, oh my God, she had gray hair. I was like, wow, thinking in my mind, like, oh my God, she stole something. And I got in big trouble at home. And then I did get caught in 10th grade at Target. Another small deal, a couple cassettes in my clothes. I put down my shirt. And so they did not call the police. I got lucky again. I had a friend that had rolled out a whole cart full of clothes, and she got arrested. So I got really lucky. Not the same day, but I worked solo. So
I have a funny story you remind me of, seeing the old lady on the wall. Whenever I got put on probation, like freaking 15 years ago, the lady that was filling out my probation paperwork after my court hearing, she's like, now, Miss Hall, I'm going to ask this only because I have to, and I really don't think that I should, but do you have any other warrants or anything in any other states? And I was like, no. And she goes, okay, well, I just have to ask because I had an 87-year-old woman in here on probation, And I didn't ask her. And turns out she had like 7 other warrants in other states because she was trafficking drugs. And I was like, I was like an 87-year-old lady, like, and this is how crazy my brain is. Okay. So I just said, I can't believe I said this. I was in a court too. I said in her butt, like I watch too many true crime things where people are like trafficking drugs. They'll like literally do plastic surgery on their butts. They'll like open up their butts, stuff them up, sew them up, put them on painkillers and send them on a flight. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah. Wow.
you got caught stealing.
In
You got
10th grade,
caught
yeah,
stealing.
so.
Yeah. All right. So how did the rest of like your school go?
So the thing about school is that it actually, I was really like school. I mostly daydreamed, to be honest. I barely paid a lick of attention, but I was safe. I was safe. I could just relax and daydream out the window of soccer. I could stare at the field right out the window there, and I just daydream. And so I got really into sports. I was really good. I was the first girl picked on any team, and I played mostly soccer at school. And then and I started into the music program, which they don't even let you till 4th grade. So 4th grade, I took violin. That's the only thing they let you take. And then in 5th grade, you could take whatever you want. So I switched to drums, which I saved my life along the years of being a drummer in bands and whatnot. It's literally diving into music like that, putting all of my powers, energy, and mind that I could into music.
Uh-huh.
If I could personally think music, it just really saved my life to have that outlet. So I didn't even really do all that well at school, I mean, I got through it and I even got a diploma down the road, but I didn't pay attention. I don't learn that way verbally. I read. I like have a nearly photographic memory if I read it, but I have to want to read it.
Are you neurodivergent?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know in how many ways. I believe I have dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
I haven't had an official diagnosis. I don't care. I'm pretty sure I'm never gonna get one. But I've had a formal diagnosis of ADHD, panic attack, a number of things.
Yeah.
But I think just the ADHD thing qualifies you as neurodivergent. So
Yeah. It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I lost my
So
train.
how did so music saved your life and then that would follow later on in your life. How did the abuse just continue? When did you end up getting out of that household?
Well, so I don't think it's any coincidence here that my mom stopped abusing me right around the time that my dad did, which is right around puberty.
Okay.
And so, I mean, approximately 12, is my approximation. And she was never mean again, not ever, not once for 1 minute after that. But I mentioned before that she was formally diagnosed with multiple personality disorder when I was 14. So that's what they called it then.
Okay.
So that person, I don't know, whatever, never came back. I never saw her like that towards anyone, including myself. Not ever again.
Yeah.
She did start getting some mental health help though at that time when she got the
Good.
diagnosis. So it stopped around that time. So I started cutting. I started to be a cutter. As soon as basically just right around that time, puberty, right around when all the abuse stopped, I started cutting. So now I'm stealing, not so much, and certainly not candy anymore. I'm still stealing whatever. I'm basically a klepto, but a little lower level because I was really doing into the music more. I started playing guitar when I was 14, so I wasn't, doing it all the time like I was when I was a kid. Literally, like that was my time spent. If I was out of the house and I wasn't playing with the neighbors basketball at their house or swimming at my house, if I was somewhere around or by myself, I'm stealing, So that started to fade out a little, actually, the stealing, and it morphed in with the cutting. became, so I had the cutting and I had the music, which of course music's not a negative thing, but those were now my outlets.
So I
The
have a
stealing,
question for you. How
yeah.
did you learn how to cut?
No, I was at a church camp. Zero idea. I was at it. Maybe he showed me. I was at a church camp. Maybe, I guess I was 13. I'm going to estimate that between 12 and 13 thing is like a blur of like, what, it's like you
Yeah.
definitely turn into another person. But I was at a church camp and I was with this boy somewhere on the property there in that mountains or whatever. And we found this broken glass on the ground and we both just cut ourselves, So I feel like maybe he did it first, but I don't remember. He might have done it first and then I did it to myself. Like I copied him. I actually don't remember that. I do remember seeing the glass and cutting myself, but yeah.
Because I'm finding it more and more common that if you really go back and ask a lot of people that started cutting at an early age, like where did they learn? A lot of people never saw it. And so I'm thinking, is it mostly a spiritual thing? Because I know like sometimes in some schools that, like cutting will become like popular. They'll learn from another kid. But if you've never seen
Right.
it before and you've never learned it from anyone else and you just started doing that, but it's a common occurrence, like that's not normal.
I do. Yeah. I'm going to give that straight to Satan, really.
Yeah.
I think it's like, it does feel in a way like you're possessed at that time.
Yeah.
Like it's like somebody else is moving your body to make you do it. It's been quite a number of years, but I do remember clearly. And then your mind shuts off, which is why it becomes, for lack of a better word, addictive.
Yeah.
Because it does solve problems like in a warped way. It takes you out of your mental and puts you into
Hmm.
physical, and so it
Yeah.
stops. If you have that stress, I hope I'm not selling it. I certainly, and it's terrible. But at the
You're not.
time, and that's the deal that people don't understand, like why someone would do that. Is just that it transfers the kind of pain you're in from the mental to the physical. You know
Yeah.
it's a distraction, but it just takes it away. It was terrible. I mean, I had periods of time. It kind of got worse and worse. So, 15, 16. I still do have little scars. Actually, I tried to use a safety razor so it wouldn't be too deep, but not always. Like you shave with.
Yeah.
They cut pretty good, but and so it wouldn't be too deep.
Girl. Yeah. I mean, you cut the wrong area and then you're getting yourself in trouble.
Right. Right. And I have my veins, you can see them. I'm very skinny. You don't have to dig deep. They're right there. They're popping out.
Yeah.
you know, they're popping out. So, that was plenty to bleed. And there were times like when I was, 19 where I had my whole arms, I had to have bandages on my entire arms and it was never for attention. I covered them. I
Mm.
can't cut. I had to wear long sleeves. And maybe some people do it for that. I don't know, but I certainly didn't want anyone to know. That's my private deal I'm doing in my room. It just happens that sometimes
Well, you
sometimes
had so
someone might
much
see them.
taken from you. Like, that was your own personal little thing?
Right. Control. I'm control. That's the other deal about cutting. I'm going to control pain, that me being in pain, instead of
Yeah.
people that are causing you pain is outside of your control. This is a pain I can control. I control it. And that's really where it headed well, this is jumping ahead a little, when I started to do drugs, which is actually after high school. I was a late starter. I actually said no sometimes. And I had other outlets. I had the music. I know music is one of the deals of why I wasn't totally lost doing nothing with my time. I think that helped a lot to not fall into it at that time. But that was the thing that it ended up causing me quite a lot of pain. But I got to choose it. It's crazy, right? I get to choose the pain I'm in, because obviously the residual of the violence and the neglect and the molestation is just an ongoing pain. Even if you're not thinking about it, it's now completely embedded into your personality and everything about you and every single thing about you, without sitting around thinking about it. It's still absolutely basically controlling your life or controlling your, for lack of a better way to say that. Because I was depressed and anxious and all these things. So those were just some of the.
Let's talk about after high school and you moving into getting involved with bands and how your drug usage really started there, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the band, I was always from 5th grade on all the way through high school. I was in marching band. So I was in band there. So I'm doing music at school first thing in the morning. And then I started to get into bands that we played shows. That started for me in 9th grade. I was a drummer for a band, and then we played a lot of shows. That was a Christian rock band. So that's 2 places I'm doing music. And then also for a little while, I was on the worship team at the youth group at night. Some of those guys were also in the side band that I was in. It was called the Rebel Peace Band. The Rebel Peace Band was silly. But we had a lot of fans, okay? It was a huge youth group. We had a lot of fans. We played a lot of shows. Anyway, so that's music all the time. And so I had something to do, I guess sometimes I'd hang out with some of the youth when we weren't at church or something, and they were doing a little bit of drinking. I didn't really get into it with them, maybe because they were church. However, I did the first time I drank till I blacked out.
Yeah.
I absolutely had an alcoholic reaction, and any time that I was presented with hard alcohol. Actually, it didn't have to be hard alcohol, but that was the first time it was hard alcohol. But wine or anything, I'm gonna drink till I pass out, black out, throwing up. I just didn't do it with the kids at church. I didn't hang out with them that often, really, except at church, But they were doing a little drinking stuff. I thought it was odd. For some reason, I didn't want to drink with them, but I did with my neighbor, one of my neighbors, and then just whenever alcohol would come around. I grew up in a house of 0 alcohol. There was no alcohol. Nobody could drink. My mom, her dad was an alcoholic. And I believe my dad's parents were alcoholics too, although he never talked about them really. But when we would visit his mom, she drank. She would go out. In her 70s, she's still going out drinking and dancing. Put in her dentures, drinking, dancing. So I believe that's why.
Not the
No
dentures.
alcohol in the house. Huh?
I said not the dentures.
Yeah. So I would drink only when it came around, only sometimes. But like I said, I would have like an alcoholic reaction, just drink like a fish. But I never did seek it out. I didn't do it often enough. And I did have some other things going on. I was obsessed with continuing to learn guitar and whatnot. And so what happened is I got pregnant when I was 17. I got pregnant and I decided to drop out of high school because I didn't want to be pregnant at high school. And I felt very sick for the first 3 months. I could barely get out of bed. I'm really skinny and I don't barely eat. I have no eating disorder, but I didn't ever eat growing up. So now I just don't even feel hunger. Now I'm just, it's a weird deal. And so I was always weak and stuff, but I just didn't feel hungry either. So weird.
Hello, my true crime weirdos. Are your podcast playlists looking a little lifeless? Well, I've got just the thing to wake them up. It's Haley here from Morbid Curiosity, and trust me, things get weird over here. Join me each week as I plunge into the darkest depths of true crime, spine-tingling paranormal encounters, and unsolved mysteries that'll haunt your thoughts long after the episode ends. Think creepy crimes, eerie legends, and hair-raising stories, plus just enough dark humor to keep things delightfully twisted. So, if you're done with the usual stuff, come get a little morbidly curious with me. Subscribe to Morbid Curiosity wherever you listen to podcasts. You won't regret it, or maybe you will, but that's part of the fun. See you soon.
Yeah.
So my dad kicked me out when I was 3 months pregnant because I was lazy. That's what, that was his reason. I know in hindsight now that he was absolutely jealous because that I was pregnant. He couldn't get anyone pregnant. Whatever that kind of person thinks about, I was probably his property in his mind. And now I've gotten pregnant by some guy. I mean, he tried to not let me see that, to see him. I had been dating him for 2 years. He was like the love of my life and whatever. And my dad just kept trying to break us up. He forbade me to see him, and all that. He followed me there one day. I wasn't allowed to see Pat. His name is Pat, the father of my son. I had to give up for adoption. But my dad followed me one day. Because I wasn't allowed to see him. So like he was waiting at this one secret spot, and I was driving to go meet him. And as soon as I pull up to pick up my boyfriend, my dad pulls up next to me because he followed me. Because that wasn't the first time either. He did that over the years, unfortunately, which has contributed. I'm not paranoid now, but it certainly, I don't think it could be called paranoia when your literal father literally followed you, you know. And he worked for the FBI,
Yeah.
with those sneaky vans, for
Yep.
surveillance, for immigration. So anyway, so I got pregnant. He kicked me out because he just made up a thing. Basically, I'm lazy, to kick me out. And so I found a Salvation Army home in downtown Los Angeles that was free if you're underage, pregnant, and homeless. I got my own room, schooling, nurses, counselor, everything. And so I stayed there. And it was coming up on being 18. And so I had to make a decision. Nobody was supporting the fact that I was going to have a baby. The father of my baby denied it. My dad went over there to confront his dad, and his dad, it was very scary. So Pat, he's like, oh, she must have had slept with somebody else. It's not mine. So I just basically feel that I was forced into giving him up for adoption. I started looking for somebody to adopt him before he was born because they were going to kick me out of the Salvation Army place once I turned 18. I had to make a plan. I didn't want to. I had never felt love before him. I loved him before he was born. It started, I don't know when, like maybe in the 4th month.
Yeah.
For whatever people's opinion on abortion or when life starts or whatever, I don't know. But I'll tell you that's when the connection started, I would say, and somewhere in the 4th month. I absolutely loved. I was filled with love. I thought if I could have just been pregnant forever, because I had never felt that for anybody before, and he wasn't even born
Yeah.
yet. I didn't want to give him up, but I had to do something. When am I going to live in the gutter with him? So
Yeah.
I found some people to adopt him. Corresponded them for a couple months. I met them, and then they were there at the birth room in February, 2 months after I turned 18. They were there in the birth room. Nobody would let me hold him because then he might change your mind. They wouldn't let me hold him, and they took him, and they took him and adopted him. And right after that, when somebody offered me drugs, I said yes, because
Yeah.
okay, I was in the worst depression I'd ever been in my life. I was so empty. I had nothing. And you think I was already a wreck before with all the
Yeah.
childhood stuff. And now the first person I loved that loved me, I don't know how to explain it. And I didn't care about anything anymore. And there is one more time in my life someone offered me drugs, and this time I said, sure, why not? I didn't even know what it did. I had no idea why I couldn't sleep that night. I tried to go to sleep. And it was a stimulant. And
Yeah.
my like I said when I first did it, that first day the angels came out and sang. That's what it felt like. And in the end,
Yeah.
the demons come out and laugh. I've been clean for just over 3.5 years, and that's the end tale of that. For the last
Good job.
many years of that using, that off and on using, was the demons come out and laugh. But in the beginning, yes, it cured me. It cured me. I didn't care. I wasn't depressed. I could talk. I didn't talk before that. I could talk over people. I didn't care if they were listening. I just, it solved all my problems at that time, and I just, from there, I was addicted from the day one. I did it every day, all the time. And, I ended up being the driver for the guy across the street. The guy across the street gave it to me, and I was his driver, and I drive him places to trade stuff and this and that, and so I didn't really have to pay. I just was the driver. And so anyway, I fell into that, and bad things happen right away, but like compared to my life, it didn't register. It took so long, for so many years, for so many bad things happened before it would register. Because overall, little bad thing for all the good it was doing. Oh, one little thing where I'm naked in a hotel with another girl, and there's this really old guy. We're like 18. There's this old guy, and he's screaming at us and throwing things. Yeah, that's a bad day. But overall, what's the big deal, right? Because of my life, it really, me and that girl, when that guy finally left, me and that girl got clothes on, and we walked over to the police station and turned ourselves in. We're on drugs. It was terrible, and they just sent us to our parents. But that was just no big deal, right? Just one bad little day, And so it really took a long time of events like that. And there are many, really, as far as nudity and whatnot, men and situations, we'll say, because of drugs and alcohol. So probably too many. So that was the big, music went to the side. Music went to the side. It was pretty much drugs. In fact, I was the weirdo over the years that when I did drugs and alcohol, I didn't play music. Some people, they do. I absolutely could not. Those two things don't go in the same room together for me. So I'm not playing an instrument and doing drugs. It was absolutely like like a broken record, just absolutely doesn't work.
Where did you end up? Where does healing begin for you, Carrie?
Well, I'll just throw one more thing first. As far as that year, around 18 to 19, I also got raped a couple times. And yes, there are drugs and alcohol or whatever. That doesn't make it right,
It doesn't
The
at
one
all.
guy I had also given me mushrooms. So, and then he's got a gun, and he puts it on the table, and he's yelling, and it was extra intense because I took mushrooms, and 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 right around that time, I completely switched into, I believe I had already had more than one, but there was a major switch to an alter ego or whatever. I chopped my hair, I wore baggy clothes, I started dating girls. I didn't even like girls before. It's just I just, you look at my pictures on Facebook, all of the like photo album, you're just like, this can't all be the same person. What was that? Her boyfriend? I was done. I was done. Danger. It wasn't just my dad that was dangerous sexually. It could be anybody, man. I mean, at that time, women were my mom was dangerous in another way, but growing up, but yeah. And so I was just done. And so that took me down a road, that included a lot of distraction, as far as I wasn't living at my parents' house. Sometimes I would move back in for a little while until I found somewhere better. And so basically, healing, partly it was some of the AA meetings and talking about some talk therapy. When the memories started to come back of what my dad did, I happened to be living there at the time, helping to take care of my mom. It was the year 2016. So when the memories started coming back there while I was living there, and right when I was going to bed, it's just really hard to explain. Oh my gosh, the way even my brain is all active. It's so weird, hard to explain. But I decided to it's just so weird, but I decided to go to coffee anyway with my dad in the morning one more time, because we'd been going to coffee most mornings and whatnot. I went to coffee with him that morning, and then that's the last time I saw him. I got I didn't really get any of my stuff. I don't know why I wanted to just do that one more time. Just look at him as the person that did that to me that I had no idea. Maybe just to see him. I don't know. But I ended up moving out. I never went back to get my stuff. I went there like the next morning, like hoping he would go to coffee so I could sneak in and get some stuff. And it was really late in the morning and he hadn't left yet. And I thought, it's not worth it. I was just so freaked out and it's not worth it. And so I never did go back. I never stepped foot in that house again, actually, ever again. And I never went back for my stuff. I left it all there, all the clothes and everything. I've never really gotten a wardrobe since. Not really. I just had to leave all that there and never look back as far as that goes. And really, so it was just PTSD at the forefront. Like he just did it last night. And like my mom just beat me yesterday. At the forefront of my mind. Oh my God, it was PTSD on steroids. Every second, everything was a threat. Everybody was scary. Everybody was after me. It was so terrible. It was so bad. Just every guy was a creep. You know, it's like I could just read all the right if they're staring at me too long. It's like I could start to read minds on it. Like, oh, you know, the sex vibe. I'm not saying every single guy, but literally, it was just this amplified reading of people, mostly guys.
Yeah.
Mostly guys. It was
Yep.
nuts. It was nuts. I was like walking around with mace and like, or a knife and like, I just was, wow. And, so I was living, relatively nearby and one day nearby my parents' house. And one day I was driving on autopilot. I was driving to his house and I didn't know what I was doing. And I got off the freeway and I got into that neighborhood, but I got lost in that neighborhood that I grew up in. I couldn't find his house and I had a knife on my lap and I didn't know what I was doing, but it didn't seem good. This is why I'm telling you, this is not the only evidence, but I have dissociative. I have a number of deals going on. People.
Yeah. I mean, it
I
happens
didn't know
when
what I was
you're
doing.
abused so early in life.
Yeah, so many splits. Well, I literally would dissociate when my dad came in at night, and I would leave my body and I would be up at the ceiling looking down, like how when people die. Like that's how traumatic it is. That's what happens when people die. Their body.
Yeah.
That's what was happening with me. That's how awful it is. I wish these guys wouldn't just blow it off like they're not doing anything wrong. I'm sorry to get off track, but never in the history of ever has a random man walked into a police station and just said, you know, I feel guilty that I touched my daughter or my granddaughter or the neighbor's daughter. They don't feel bad. They don't feel bad.
I know. It's awful, Carrie.
None of them feel guilty out of the millions of people, or they would go confess to somebody, right? I'm sorry.
They would.
I really didn't think I'd get emotional, but I really pictured that what I did is I would leave my body and there I was above, floating up at the ceiling. And okay, so back to my story. I
You're
was
okay,
driving
girl.
by
Take a
his
deep
house.
breath. This is hard stuff. This is really hard stuff. This is why, like,
It's hardcore.
don't.
And I remember, I really feel like I don't think any hate vibe comes off me. I don't hate. I have a generalization of distaste and horror of pedophiles in general. And how
Girl,
many are doing this?
you have a right to be angry about what happened to you. Yeah. You have every right to be angry about what happened to you. You were a child. And what happened should have never happened. It shouldn't happen to any children. But if you look at like the statistics these days with like the human trafficking that's going on, it's mainly like child like torture stuff, and it's all stuff with children. And I do not know what is going on with adults. I mean, it just has to be like demonic. Yeah. Like I've never had a thought in my head to want to look at a child in any other way than them just being an innocent child. So it has to be a spiritual demonic thing, because this is not normal. It's out of control. It's literally ruining people's lives.
United States is the biggest distributor of child pornography right now.
Yeah. Yes.
We are number
Mm-hmm.
one on the list.
Yeah.
This is there's no other species where the adult. This is particularly male. It's not all men. It's not, I mean, not only men, but it's like 99% of men are of the perpetrators are men. But there's no other species where there's adult men and adult women, and the adult males of the species are choosing children. There is
Yeah.
no other thing going on like this. Not anywhere. Not any kind of species. No other creature on the earth is something definitely demonic. I totally, I can't it's hard to comprehend, but
You
what other
can't.
explanation can there be?
Yeah.
You
There
know?
really is no explanation for it, because there's like, God doesn't make mistakes, and there's no way he would make us born to want to hurt other kids. So, I mean, something else has
Right.
to happen, something else has to happen.
Right. Right. I do have this isn't, yeah, I just, it's just baffling. It's
Well, I'm
absolutely
really
baffling.
like, the word sorry, like, doesn't even touch, like what you've been through. It is horrendous. And you dissociating is your body protecting itself from everything that you went through. When you're that young, you just literally have to go somewhere else mentally, and your brain literally splits.
Right.
And that's where all
Absolutely.
the alters or other personalities start coming out. And people want to call it like
Right.
schizophrenia or like all these other things. The schizophrenia is something really different.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody that's done me a long time, I mean, they have no doubt. I have friends that have formal diagnoses, and they absolutely, they absolutely know. I don't care what anybody's opinion was on it. Like, as far as like, are you down, or well, a doctor didn't tell you, so you can't have it, or whatever. I'm so beyond. I've had a lot of diagnoses. They can't all be right. It's impossible. But I haven't had that one. I have never had a schizophrenia diagnosis. I've never had a borderline one, but I've had a lot of them, a lot of other diagnoses, but never that one.
Well, DID is like very hard to diagnose. It takes years watching a patient to actually get actual diagnosis.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The only good thing would be that I have a friend with a formal diagnosis, and then they got to go to groups where other people had it, and I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really amazing. Yeah, we could have like Little's Day and bring our little stuffed animals, and then we could have whatever. I don't know. I was really jealous that they were in that. I mean, I'm happy. I was happy for them, but I was so jealous that they got to go to those groups, because you're not going to get to go to those groups if if you don't have the diagnosis.
Yeah.
I do follow several people with DID, on Instagram and stuff. And then, like I said, I have more than one friend with it, you know. But yeah, it really doesn't matter much whether I have the diagnosis or not, I guess. But yeah, so anyway, fast forward to the trauma healing. I can definitely summarize that. It's like ongoing, of course, but like as far as the first year of the memories, see, I had already healed from the trauma from my mom, from the childhood stuff. Now I hated her for years, right? So like high school and stuff. She's nice, and I was really mean, really. When she tried to hang out and talk to me, and I'd tell her, shut up. I mean, she was just nice anyway, but she's real chatty, and I just. So anyway, I finally got over that after several years, and that was because of AA, right? So the 12 steps and stuff. I got over that hate, and then when the hate for my dad was ignited, then that that took some extra work for me to do to get over. So it wasn't just now I did talk a lot, and those poor people in the AA meetings had to listen to me over and over again. I swear I would tell everybody I just met anywhere about being molested by my dad. Because I'm just so shocked by it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe it. I was so pissed. And then you tell almost anybody, and then they tell you their story, and then that just adds to it. Oh my God, so many motherfuckers, you know.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of talk therapy, And then I did a lot of reading. Actually helped me learning about psychology, because I want to know what I didn't ever really get an answer to that, but like, how could someone even be like this? I never really got quite an answer. However, when you go into narcissism, sociopath, and stuff like that, you can at least see that they're basically heartless, for lack of a better, for a short term,
Yeah.
a short summary in a way, heartless and possibly often even sadistic, and they have no empathy. And so that, just learning about psychology, like I said, I never did get the answer, because I do think there's some spiritual thing in there as well. But just trying to understand people in general, and that's how I've learned more than I cared to know, because I am beyond a shadow of a doubt. My dad was a very fairly classic narcissist, as far as that goes, playing the games and then seeming like the nice guy. I always wonder what the
Yeah.
weird smile on his face was. The smirk. The smirk. It's not, it's, yeah, I just, that reading and learning about that helped me put that together. And then a really hard thing I had to do is, to not put yourself in their shoes, but as far as what their childhood was, and not to excuse what they did, but something about, because I only met his dad once, and the way that they were around each other, I'm pretty sure my dad was a survivor of this
Okay.
guy. I'm almost positive. He only ever talked to his mom. It was really hard to explain, but I really do think that it's a really high possibility that he was a survivor also of molestation.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it at the time that day, but I did take it in, just how weird it was. Where my dad just almost seemed like a little boy, and it's just weirdness. And so it doesn't excuse anything, but it helps. It's all part of the process of, like, okay, that's how we turn out. A lot of people end up with being narcissists with unhealed trauma sometimes. And I absolutely 100% admit that in many ways, almost everything except no sadism and no going out of my way to hurt people, right? Like, not going and finding people to hurt to feel better about yourself. Never, besides those two things, though, I definitely had a lot of narcissistic traits, definitely, as a teenager.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you know, though. That's what you grow up with. You grow up with people that are selfish and taking from you. So in return, you do the same, because that's just how you learn things. But the thing is that you got older and fixed those things. Like, you realized it wasn't okay. And people with like true MPD, it's so rare that they go to a psychiatrist or psychologist and say, hey, I think I have MPD. Like, actually, it's most of the time the survivors that are going, am I the narcissist? Because we've been blamed for things for so long.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. 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 And I definitely, and that's another thing that AA really helped me. See, the main thing about AA is just that it really, for me anyway, I don't really actually agree with the whole program in a way. Some of the way it goes, but it definitely was absolutely helpful, and a big part of my healing journey is that it really just helped me basically slowly but surely become self-aware. And that's if you have any hope of knocking out being I might have been a full-blown narcissist. Like I said, I wasn't sadistic, though. I was too busy hurting my own self. I never had a sadistic thing, and I never went out of my way to, and I didn't go around, I don't know, but I'm just trying to minimize it. Maybe I really do think that I was, but because if you don't have self-awareness, then you're not going to know that you have anything to change. So you think you're fine.
Well, how are you supposed to have self-awareness when you're so busy trying to just survive?
Right. Exactly. And I remember some of the first times that self-awareness kicked in, it's like, it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever actively avoided it, but maybe, but oh my gosh, it's terrible, right? It's terrible. I used to, call people for me. I was like, a lot of anxiety, and I would just do a monologue, to where they wouldn't answer their phone anymore. I didn't know how to have a conversation in any way, shape, or form. And so I just go on to call another person. Nobody answers, and I never knew why. I never figured it out right. But one day I was at a meeting and this guy was talking. It's not the first time that ever happened to me, but this guy was talking and he was doing a monologue to me. I never met him before in my life. And I'd say he talked maybe 15 minutes straight I couldn't get one word in.
Yeah.
15 minutes straight, probably. And it just hit me. It's just like my eyes open. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. No.
You're like, this is me. I'm this person.
Damn.
Yeah.
Who wants to be self-aware?
I do.
Oh my God.
I love becoming a better person. Like, I'm not hard on myself about becoming self-aware. And God has, I placed it in God's hand, and he's slowly been showing me like little bits here and there, obviously, like not all at once. But he's been really gracious with me about it. I mean, I grew up in a very toxic situation as well. I had so much to learn about life and myself in order to be healthy. So don't beat yourself up over that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad now. I wouldn't have it any other way. It is like a weird little burden in a way. But, I mean, it's hard. It's hard to keep looking at yourself and to keep thinking about your behavior and did I have acted better there? It's hardcore, but I'm really glad, overall. I would have never nothing would have get better. Nothing's going to change if you don't think anything needs changing there, It's like,
Yeah.
but it's just unbelievable. And that it took the exact person doing the exact same thing that I was doing. Because all those people not answering their phones, I had no idea. What do I think? I think they don't like me. Well, they kind of don't.
They
But
just didn't.
some of
They
those
didn't know how
people,
to get you off the phone.
right?
Girl, I had friends that were like that, and I didn't know how to say no, and I knew that like they didn't have anyone else. So I would literally just lay my phone down. I'd come back 2 hours later, they would still be talking. Like, I'm not
Wow.
kidding. Until I finally just learned to be like, hey, like I have stuff to do today. Like, I need
Right.
to cut this short,
Let me introduce you to this nearby wall that you can talk at while I go do like something else more interesting. Really?
Yeah.
Oh man. I would like to say I have quite a lot of friends because I have since learned how to be I'm a pretty good conversationalist, I think now, but I've learned how to have a conversation. I learned how, but I never would have learned how if I didn't have a mirror looking, that guy talking that day being basically a mirror on my behavior.
I know.
So
We're going to go ahead and start rounding up the podcast here, if that's okay.
definitely.
Is there anything else that you want to share? And if you want to drop your socials, then you can. If not, that's fine too. I didn't ask you that prior, so I didn't know.
Oh, no, I don't really. I'm just a faithful servant for the Jan Boberg Foundation and helping her out. So
yeah.
So I probably won't need to plug that stuff. But yeah, just as far as the healing goes, one little thing that seemed really important is that I chose to live in the forest for 2 months. And when I came out of that is where I came out of the forest with the hate for my dad was gone finally. I know that sounds crazy. I had already been doing the work, I had already been doing the work on trauma healing.
Carrie.
I did it. It was a choice. I was not homeless. I had money.
Were you living in a tent?
Nope. It's just the weirdest thing ever. I'm so weird, but no, I was not. I was staying at a sort of sober living / shelter. I don't know. It's weird. Like but you're also paying a little rent. It was this weird place in Oregon that where you just get your life together and
yeah,
the ocean
this
and
was
the
like
forest.
a healing retreat kind of thing out in the middle of the forest. Okay, yeah.
Well, no. I mean, the place was nearby there. It was like the place I was living at was by the ocean and the forest, But inside that building, it was a bad mix of people. For me, while I was there was like people hiding from a husband or boyfriend, and then there's people there that have a domestic violence charge that they're going to classes for because they've hurt somebody. So it wasn't ideal spot, for me at that time. And so I dropped my phone one day on accident, and I wasn't gonna get money for a couple weeks, and so the third day of not having a phone, I realized, oh my gosh, I don't need electricity anymore. I'm gonna go live in the forest. Like, I was over having a phone. I enjoyed not having a phone. It was nice. And that's it. And I
feel like I could do that right now. Like, just me and my two dogs, forget the phone, forget the internet, forget work,
oh my
everything.
God.
For like, that would be so nice, honestly. But I would need to be like in a yurt or something. I am not like your pitch a tent. And everyone's like, Jackey, did you
Yeah.
grow up in the South? Yeah, I did. And I hated it. And I still hate it. I am not a tent bug loving, sun praising. No, no. I need like a camper or something.
Yeah. In the shower and
Yeah.
all that. I really
Yeah.
was very strange that I did that, but it helped me not have a phone, and it helped me to like kind of ground, just connect with myself and nature, and I forgave him. I forgave my dad. That's really the most important part of not of my healing process, but that's just my story of some of the things that I did, and my ongoing is to try to help other survivors. Is
Yeah.
like my ongoing, because there's it's never gonna I'm never gonna have a life where that's just not like somehow a topic in my life.
Yeah.
It took over my whole life, and so this is the way that I choose to um what I choose as a way to keep, is to get the word out, is to try to open people's eyes that they really ought to be worried about possibly even their own family members, that this
Mm-hmm.
blind eye thing, it can't be somebody I know. It can't be him because I love him. Oh no.
Yeah, it can be.
And they don't want to look paranoid that someone they love might be doing that. It's not worth it to save your child from, to like maybe be even wrong, or not to just pay attention and see,
Yeah.
that you don't want to seem like you're worried about, any family member or any neighbor. So you just, it just seems like, it'd be more important at any cost, no matter how it comes across to other people, that you make sure that nobody's touching your child,
Yeah. Yep. Well, we're living a day and age now where it's very weird. I feel like people are either like super cautious and super aware of that type of thing just because there's more education of it now, or you have the parents that are literally like selling their kids for that reason. And that
Right.
I will never understand. I just can't. I couldn't even get rid of my dogs just to get rid of them. Like,
Right.
and people are like selling their children. I can't. I can't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's really hard to wrap your mind around.
yeah.
I won't mind if it's the end of the world soon, because it needs a reset.
Girl, same. I've been saying
I'm ready.
that. I'm so ready to go.
It's getting darker and darker and darker and darker here,
It is.
So, yeah.
You know what? You have shed a really big light on a lot of people, and I appreciate you for being vulnerable and telling your very hard story. It's not easy, and I appreciate and admire your strength, and thank you for coming on. I'm so blessed to have you as a friend, and you and Jan have just been amazing. Anyone that is connected with her that I have became friends with has been so amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, she is. And so then just everybody, it's definitely a good group. Yeah. I
Yeah.
still talk to a couple of people that I've gotten as guests for her podcast. I've talked to more than one still, yeah, it's definitely the right people that are meant to connect,
Yep.
So yeah. Well, thank you so much. But I really, Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show, Jackey. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome, Carrie. I hope you have a beautiful day. And to everyone else, remember to be kind to everyone. You never know what battles people are facing. And I will see you all next week. Love ya.